we are living in the last days, and we are near the end time. And this may sound terrible to some people, but to the Christians, I'm glad that we're here. I'm glad that we're at the end. I said that once in a meeting, and a person talking to me said, "What do you mean? You mean you'd be glad to see the end of the world come?" I said, "Oh, yes, sir." I said, "Sure." He said, "Well, that don't sound sensible. Anybody would want the end of the world to come." I said, "At the end of the world, time, Jesus comes. And that's who I want to see." And I said, the Bible said that all those who love His appearing. And it is a pleasure to know that these old things here of life is going to cease one of these days, and we're going to see. Well, some time ago, it was said down in there, many years back when they had slavery, and there was an old colored man who used to have old church singings, country singings. They'd get together and they'd minister among the slaves and preach, and they'd have meetings. And one night there's an old fellow over there got saved, and when he got saved, he knowed he was free then. So he began to tell the other slaves the next morning on the plantation. He said, "I'm free." So his boss come over and pulled him in. He said, "Look here, Sam," said, "what's this I hear you're telling amongst the slaves that you're free?" He said, "Yes, boss." Said, "That's true." Said, "At a meeting last night, I was set free from the law of sin and death." That's it. That's it. The law of sin and death. I was set free from it. You were once bound there, you see. But now you're free from that. See? As I said this morning, death only abides in sin. Sin and death is the same. See? But when you're away from sin, you're away from death. But while you're in sin, you're in death. See? And therefore, when you're free from the law of sin and death, you're a new creature in Christ Jesus. Amen. And then you're free. And his boss said to him, said, "Sam, do you really mean that?" He said, "Yes, sir." And said, "The Lord called me last night to talk to my people and to speak to them. If they can be free from the law of sin and death, though we're slaves, yet we can be free from the law of sin and death." He said, "Sam, do you really mean that?" He said, "Boss, I don't know what you're going to do with me after I say this. But I was telling you, I was a free man." He said, "I'm free from the law of sin and death." And he said, "Sam, I'm a Christian too, you know. And because that God has made you free from sin and death, and you're a Christian, and you feel you want to tell your brethren about it, I'm going down this morning and set you free and sign the proclamation, and you can be a free man, not bound by anybody, to preach the gospel to your brethren." Amen. He said the old fellow preached for many, many years. One time, then after all of us do, we come down to the end of our road. And when we come to the end of his road, when he did, he came down and he laid unconscious, he said, for maybe several hours. And many of his white brethren come in to visit him. And there happened to be a group of them in the building. When he woke up, come to himself, he looked around, he said, "You mean I was not over there yet?" And they said, "Sam, you've been asleep." He said, "No." He said, "I wasn't asleep." He said, "I was over on the other side." Well, they said, the minister brethren said, "Sam, tell us what you saw on the other side." He said, "Well," he said, "I walked into a great pearly white gate. And said, when I walked in there, said, I seen the throne. I seen Him. And said, up come an angel. He said, are you Sam? He said, I am. Said, Sam, said, here is a robe and a crown. Said, you've won this, Sam, by the great works that you've done on earth. He said, don't talk to me about a robe and crown for a reward. He said, what would you like for a reward? He said, just let me look at Him for 1,000 years.
Hallelujah.
I think we all feel that way, don't you? I don't want no robes and crowns and palaces. I just like to look at Him. I just like to look at Him and just, you I like to hold your hand while you do it, Brother Neville. We can do it. I say, think of it, Brother Neville. How we stay in the tabernacle in the hot and cold and things. But look at here what we're looking at. The Son of the living God. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Just to look and see His features. 2 times in my life, now 3 times, I have seen Him in vision. He'll look the same each time, but there's not an artist in the world could ever paint His picture. They might paint something that might look like Him, but He looked like to me He would be a man. If He'd speak, the world would come to an end. And yet so sweet and lovely that there's just too many characteristics there that an artist's brush could ever catch. And I sure want to see Him someday in person. And I've often thought when I like to heard Him when He raised out those precious hands and said, come unto me. See that tired, weary look on Him. When He was tired and weary from His journey, say, come unto me all ye that labor and heavy laden. I'll give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me. Amen. For I'm meek and lowly. I like to have heard Him say that. I wasn't there in that day. I wasn't standing with Peter, James, and John. But I hope I'm standing by Him the day when I can hear Him say, it was well done. Amen. My good and faithful servant. Now I enter into the joys of the Lord. And to think that the very ones who wrote this Bible, Paul, Isaiah, Jeremiah, and all the apostles, and those precious brethren, wherever they are now, the very God that dealt with them to foresee things and write it, and so forth, and give them the gifts of the Bible, of prophecy and speaking with tongues and signs and wonders and so forth, them same man, wherever they are now, we're going to be with them. The same God with the same thing. It isn't a guess so anymore. We know it now, see, because He's really present and we know that it's so. So, shouldn't we not be the happiest people on earth? What more would we long?